welcome to Holistic Counselling and Psychotherapy Tutor. My name is Saskia. I'm a psychotherapist based in London. I'm also a tutor of counselling and a clinical supervisor. I'm making a series of videos based very much on the common issues that I see my students struggling with as they're continuing through their journey of training. So I'm hoping that by the end of each video, you'll get a better understanding or a little bit of clarity around some of the trickier areas of both theory and how to apply theory in practice. So do remember to like, follow, share. If you find the videos helpful, feel free to put some comments below the videos. If you've got any ideas for future videos, I'm open to hearing. And today we're going to take a couple of minutes thinking about integration in therapy. When therapy started way back when, with the likes of Freud, models tended to be very purist. And what we see now is much more integration going on, drawing from concepts from a range of different theories. So quite often students are asking themselves, what is integration? How do I integrate? And how do I start to think about integration? So we're going to take a little look now at integration, certainly in counselling, and what that looks like. So when we're starting to think about integration, what we're doing is we're kind of combining concepts from at least two purist models of understanding human behaviour. So basically, we're taking concepts from different psychological theories, for example, person-centered theory, or psychodynamic theory, or Gestalt, whichever kind of psychological theories. We're taking concepts from two or more purist models. So we might integrate, for example, underlying philosophical concepts from models, or particular skills, or particular techniques or interventions from singular modality therapy. So probably if you're kind of reaching this stage in your therapeutic kind of journey, I'm assuming you're at diploma level or above. So you've probably learned a lot already about major singular modality approaches to counselling and therapy. But how do we choose which concepts from which modalities to use in our work with clients? So when we're starting to think about integration, we have to think there are generally four forms of integration. And these are kind of clearly identified by people like John Norcross, who suggests four main ways in which counsellors understand and integrate singular modality models within their work. So the first one is theoretical integration. And this is when we take concepts and techniques from more than one approach and use them to create a whole new approach for working with client presenting issues. So really we're thinking it creates a new model of therapy. Now, the most obvious example of a theoretical integration is CBT. It's literally taking the psychological theory of cognitive therapy, the psychological theory of behavioral therapy, fusing them together to create a whole new model of therapy. I'm sure we're all aware of how popular CBT is in the kind of present climate. It's currently the most used therapy, certainly in the UK. So that's theoretical integration. Best example of theoretical integration is CBT. Two purist models being fused together and creating a whole new approach. John Norcross also identifies assimilative integration. And this is when we start with developing one purist modality and then bring in aspects of other modalities. And this usually develops over time and with experience and can actually really account for the unique style of each therapist. Quite often we see assimilative integration in practice with therapists who have, for example, trained in person-centered theory, but have then had a placement perhaps with a short-term or goal-orientated agency. So inevitably through supervision, through CPD, through other methods of learning, what will happen over time is that someone who's trained in person-centered theory will start to assimilate and learn from their experiences in placement, from their clinical supervision, from their CBT, other ways of working. And that will kind of assimilate into the original foundational learning. And so a unique integrative approach is formed with each individual therapist. And the third way of integrating, identified by John Norcross, is eclecticism. So if we're working in an eclectic way, we're taking a selection of techniques, almost like a toolbox approach. We're taking a selection of techniques from a range of models without necessarily a coherent or consistent philosophical underpinning. It's quite often referred to as a toolbox approach, this kind of idea that you use whatever is relevant for that particular client at that particular time. So the downside of that is actually there is no kind of coherent underpinning. It's quite difficult, I think, from my perspective anyway. Maybe this is just my judgment. It's quite difficult in that sense to kind of have an anchor in the room if you don't kind of have that kind of grounding, underlying philosophical underpinning. But the benefit of that is it is a toolbox approach. You can literally use whatever your client needs in that moment. So you can draw on a range of different things. So that's eclecticism. And then the four main approach, which John Norcross identifies, is the common factor approach. And there's lots and lots of research around this at the moment. It seems to be very live at the moment. And common factors is basically looking at the similarities across therapeutic outcomes, regardless of modality. So people like Lambert and Lambert have researched how change occurs in a therapeutic relationship. And they've looked at therapeutic relationship outcomes across a range of different modalities. And they've really looked at client factors, therapist factors, etc., which contribute to positive outcomes in therapy. And actually what shows is that client factors such as motivation, so client's motivation for therapy, a client's capacity for relationship, are greater predictors of positive outcome than theoretical modality. We spend all this time kind of learning theory and understanding it and making sense of it, but actually it's not necessarily the largest predictor of positive outcomes for clients. So from this kind of common factors approach, what we start to see are integrative models kind of coming about, certainly looking at more relational approaches. So we start to see kind of common factors forms of integration forming. The relational integrative model is an example of that. Another very popular example is Petruska Clarkson and her 5 relationships. So basically what we can see, integration, 4 ways that we integrate. Theoretical integration, taking concepts and techniques from more than one approach and using them to create a whole new approach of working with clients, for example, CBT. Assimilative integration, when we're trained in one modality and bring other aspects of other modalities in over time and with experience of them. Eclectic integration, almost a toolbox approach, drawing on whatever is needed in that moment for client work. And then we have common factors, really looking at, regardless of theoretical modality, what develops the best outcomes in therapy. And we all know by now, actually, the quality of the relationship, client factors and therapist factors are much bigger predictors of outcomes than are the theoretical approach that the therapist is. So then we see a much more of a move towards more relational approaches to working with therapy. Those kind of really look at the development of the therapeutic relationship, the quality of that relationship, such as the relational integrative model is one. I think Mick Cooper has his pluralistic therapy as another. We have Clarkson's 5 relationships, which is a relatively well-established approach to therapy. And that's it from me today. I hope you have enjoyed watching. Please do remember to like, follow, share. I think on our next video, we're going to be looking at Clarkson's 5 relationships. So if you've got any interest in Petruska Clarkson, perhaps you're learning about her, or you want to learn more about an integrative approach to therapy, do watch our next video.